I just feel like the hate is weird. I get people's like thought process on they want the real live action to look like the cartoon, but I also feel like it's weird. Like at the end of the day, what are you really mad about? You know, like do you think it's underlying racism? Because like people will say it's not racism, but then why else are you mad? You know, or you think that they would have been like this with anybody else that they just didn't want it to be it, even if she was white or Indian or I mean, if she was Indian or anything other than white, I feel like it would still be some form of racism. But what about if she was like a brunette or something, or like
They would have said the same thing probably.
that's the thing. Like I think Halle Bailey's hair color is like brown, but in the preview it looked like they kind of made it like gingerish. Like they might have dyed it or did something to it. So it's like they still try to make her like a redhead. So that's why I'm like, I don't understand. Do you think it's a race thing?
Obviously, the same thing happened to Mindy Kaling. I think for a character they made some character Indian or something like that. I don't have obviously my phone, but you could look it up.
Yeah.
So this stuff does happen to everybody.
Yeah. It's weird.
See if I can find it.
It's weird. That's one thing I know. And it wasn't it a black Cinderella like Brandy? But that was like a whole black remake though, right? They like
Yeah. I forget what it was, but it was something about maybe it wasn't Mindy Kaling. It was something it was some character. I feel like they made live action or something like
what
that.
do you remember
And
what it
then
was?
no, I have no idea what it was.
Maybe to say like live action racism.
It was something. Oh yeah, Velma. That's what it was. Yeah, they made Velma.
Like I can understand wanting the live action to look like the cartoon, like because then like you feel like you're watching like the cartoon that you loved your whole life in person. You know, like you truly feel like you're watching it in person. So I get that, and I also understand that I feel like Hollywood is a little bit like you. I kind of feel like sometimes they pick somebody like Halle Bailey just so they could look like, oh, we're inclusive, we're diverse. Like sometimes I feel like sometimes they try to make it seem like they're being inclusive, and not saying that she doesn't deserve the role, but I feel like sometimes Hollywood does that. They're trying hard because everything that happened the past few years with Black Lives Matter, and them just wanting to look like, oh look, we got a black girl as Little Mermaid. We love everybody, you know. So sometimes I feel like not that they're pushing an agenda, but sometimes you have to look at them sideways too, like why does it seem like maybe they're trying to be inclusive? But it's like obviously she's talented and like she should be able to be any role. But I could understand people wanting the character to look exactly like the cartoon because like it's like we do have black cartoons, like we have Tiana, so if Tiana was live action, like you wouldn't want Tiana to be white. Like if there's a live action Tiana, like you would want her to look like the character, you know.
The only thing about that is I don't think that Disney did that for the purpose of appeasing anyone because that would be contradictory.
What do you mean?
You don't
Oh yeah,
make
yeah, yeah.
something to appease the minority.
Yeah, but also I feel like
There's no gain
it
from
just
it.
gives them like kudos. But yeah, there's no game because they know that
But
they know the controversy that was
yeah,
gonna come with it.
it gets kudos from the minority, but it doesn't give kudos to the majority. They'll probably lose. Like realistically, like they're a business. They're here to make money. They're going to lose a significant amount of money because of that in relation to what they could have made if they just
Yeah,
had casted a white person.
because I think they see too the backlash and they probably anticipated it. Like especially with the Mindy, what's her last name?
Caitlyn.
Caitlyn. Like I'm sure they've seen stuff like that. I'm sure when they do things like this, I'm sure they use that as like in their reports, like in their what would you call it, like their planning stage or like their forecasting. I'm sure they use like examples like that in the past or what type of backlash happened with using somebody who's a minority or doesn't look like the role and how that affected something. I'm sure they had some type of research, right? Like in their R&D or something. So, but then it makes me wonder if they know they'll get outrage views. Or you think people are completely going to be like, nah, I'm not watching that.
They'll get some, but it won't. The outrage, like it won't be anywhere close if it was just a white person.
How about like the fact that black people are like one of the biggest consumers as a group? Like we like amass, what did they say, like trillions
Yeah, but
No, but I'm saying, do you think that they are aware that they could still make a lot of money off of us? Because like take like the Black Panther. I mean, the Black Panther is different though because like
it's Marvel. White
it's
people. It
Marvel.
was
They're
more
gonna
white
love it
people.
regardless.
Yeah,
And there was never no like the cartoon. Did they specify in the comics what the Black Panther looked like? Was he black?
yeah.
Okay. So see, okay, that's different. So they weren't mad because they was expecting that's how the
Because
characters.
that's what he is.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I personally am not a Little Mermaid fan, so I'm not watching it because I just never liked the Little Mermaid growing up. Like that wasn't like my go-to. I mean, I might watch to see and support, but I'm not like a huge Little Mermaid fan, regardless. I like the one when her daughter. It's like I think it was her daughter or something. That's the only one I liked. But I don't know. And then the YouTube, you saw like his YouTube was bad. Like the dislike to like ratio was like excessive. It was crazy. So I don't know. If you were like a black, well, we were black, but if you were like a famous actor or like just had really talent, like we're really talented, would you take a role that was like a white person, or would you take the bag over the Backlash? Because like people are. I don't think people are necessarily mad at Halle, but they're just mad at that she has that role. But I feel like that must be hard to like look online every day, right, and see people. They be saying some mean stuff. And they're not necessarily saying it at her, but they're just saying it at whoever casted.
I look at life differently. Like we just had this conversation. So for me, I'm kind of like elitist and Republican. So for like honestly, in my personal opinion, it's kind of like does it matter, right? Like the internet's not real.
Yeah.
You know what the thing is? You know what the real deep down thing about all of this stuff, right? Like the thing about people that are rich people kind of, they're like on the border, but at least for people that are wealthy. But most of the people that are rich too, the only thing that they see is money.
Yeah.
So I associate with that because that eliminates the whole I see skin color and bias and all this other stuff. It kind of eliminates a lot of those things. Those people care about money. They care about business deals. And even though we shouldn't chase money, it is like a weird section of the world where I feel like it does eliminate some of the stupid shit that we debate about all day long, and race is one of them.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I associate with those sort of capitalist views because when you look at, because people can complain about capitalism all they want, but when you look at the mentality of people that don't believe in those things, don't believe in capitalism, don't believe in working hard, or feel like the world is owed to them, or they have these extreme views on race and they don't like certain colors of people, and the type of person I'm trying to categorize here. They're not offering anything to me. Like their existence,
like NPC.
Like the world would be better with. Yeah, exactly. Like the Yahoo comments and all these negative comments.
They're just there.
The world would be a better place without those people. So to me, it doesn't matter. So I'm never changing my opinion on whether I'm taking a role or doing anything, or if my level of success is making somebody else mad. It's never going to impact me. Like at the end of the day, seriously, that whole like, do you want to cry in a Civic or do you want to cry in a Porsche thing? Like, I kind of believe in that for real, because what does it matter? Like realistically, and also
too, at the end of the day, when is she ever probably going to be in the same spaces as those people in her comments? Like
seriously, like realistically, think about this. If I had a negative view on, let's say like Brian Moynihan, who's the CEO of Bank of America. Let's say I hate him, right now. I still have to get up on a subway and take 6 trains tomorrow to get to work,
right now.
So to me, those negative comments don't mean anything. I could tweet all of those things all I want. I could say, oh, Halle Bailey, she shouldn't have this role, this, that, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're miserable, right? And you never see rich people. I mean, you can see rich people fight. You can see wealthy people fight. It's not like they go without that. But you very rarely see somebody that has something going for them talking negatively about somebody else that has something going for them.
Yeah,
even in sports, like people compete. Like that's why there's like a different Super Bowl winner, there's a different NBA winner, like all the time. Like different people on the team, like they're all competing. Like that's why like the Warriors won a championship last year, but they still got to go out and prove it again next year. It's always like, like there's a certain respect between people that are on the same levels. So anybody else that's not incapable.
That's why, like you said, even competitors have respect to each other because they know they're all in that same bracket.
Yeah.
But like, if you were way below me, I don't care about what you got to say.
Yeah,
Like
imagine
you think I care about your opinion when you're not even doing half the things I do.
somebody on a middle school basketball team talking about an NBA player. It's like that kind of thing. So for me, I'm never. That's where my mind is at. Like LeBron said, like all these people that make all these comments and they're typing up reports about all these players or LeBron's a crybaby, all blah 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 blah. At the end of the day, you're getting paid because you talk about me.
Yeah.
And that's how I view it. So like you wouldn't be able to feed your kids if I didn't exist. And that's how I feel. So like I don't step on people that are below me, and I'm not rich or wealthy, and even though I talk it might sound like I am, but it's just a mentality thing.
Yeah, it's like a mentality.
Like,
That's why like even earlier when I was fighting with the people about Balenciaga not being in their tax bracket and that they shouldn't be talking about certain things that are not aimed to them. So I'm talking about myself too. Like Balenciaga is not my tax bracket. They don't make those clothes aimed at me. So when I'm making that criticism, I'm criticizing all of us. Like this is not our bracket. Like let's talk about something that's actually for us. Like you guys are discussing what Balenciaga is dropping when this is for people who could buy it comfortably.
Yeah,
It's not for any of us. So that's me criticizing myself too. That's why people are mad. Like, what you mean tax bracket? You not my tax bracket. I'm like, first of all, why are you getting defended? I didn't say that. When did I say that we were in the same tax bracket? I just said this stuff is not our tax bracket at all. Like,
yeah. So that's just how I view things. Like,
yeah.
I like that's why even when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, this player's trash. This player's this, and it's like, picture me, who was never good enough to. I didn't attempt to try for a team. Picture me never good enough to make a football team, telling somebody else that they're trash behind a TV screen watching them. I'm taking time out of my day to watch them play.
And that's you being a kid, so that's different. But then you have people in their 40s doing that, like,
and it's like
overweight, can't even run probably 100 meters.
Like this person could feed their family and do more for their family than I ever at this point.
Well, we don't have a family.
And most likely will ever be able to provide for my family. He's more of a man just based off of that than I am, and I'm gonna call him trash from behind a TV screen.
Yeah, or actually being at the field, like you paid to watch somebody to call him trash.
The other day we just paid like $500 to go watch other men play football. Imagine me saying, "Oh, they're trash."
Yeah,
like nah. There's like 400 of the best people, the best athletes on the planet.
Yeah, and there's always a big overweight. Never ran a mile in their life except for gym.
So when you see the comments, that's usually what it is. So in my opinion, to answer your question, even though that was long-winded, no, I'm not going to not take a role because of potential backlash. Because when I take that role and I'm able to put food on the table and I'm able to travel and not be working in jobs that people complain about, that's what keeps me warm at night.
Yeah.
So
she shouldn't.
With that being said, artistically and stylistically, if I was offered to play the role of Batman, I'm not going to take the role of Batman because that's not what the character is. So that part I still believe in.
So you still believe in The Little Mermaid, her not being the character?
That one's different. So we could break that down in a second. But if I was to play Superman, Superman's not a black person. Like, that's not how it was created. So why would I try to be Superman? That's just not how it was written.
But then that's what people are mad about. Like, racism aside, there are people who are mad genuinely because she doesn't reflect how.
Right. No, I'm saying we could get into that, but I'm saying in general, like, yes, if I was going to take a role, it would be in the context of
Black
whatever
Panther movie.
Yeah, whatever the superhero look like. Like the Green Lantern is black.
Mm-hmm. Never knew that.
So I would take a Green Lantern role.
But the Green Lantern in real life hasn't been.
No.
Exactly.
So,
but nobody, was there any public outcry about that?
Well, there's different Green Lanterns, but the regular, like the one in Justice League, is supposed to be black, but in the live actions they've always been white.
Interesting.
So for me, yes, I would take the role of Green Lantern because he's black in the comics, and that would be aligned to the story.
Yeah.
Martian in Justice League is an alien that's green. I would take the Martian role too because he's an alien and he's green, and we don't have anybody on Earth that's alien and green. Just like the same way, Zoe Saldana could play
Catwoman.
Zoe Saldana could play Gamora because that's a green alien, or she could play.
But is she Catwoman?
No, that was Zoe Kravitz. But like that, for example, like.
But Catwoman was black though in the comics, yeah. That's why. Did someone say they created Catwoman with Halle Bailey, right? Wait, no,
Halle Berry.
See, I get them confused in mine.
No, I don't think so.
Who said that then? Somebody lied. Because Catwoman came out before it.
Like way before. Yeah, I don't know who said that.
Yeah,
but
people just making up stuff.
When it comes to mythical creatures, I think anybody should be able to play anybody, right? Like Thanos was played by a white man
But Thanos was purple.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like a mythical creature, in my opinion, could be anybody.
And I agree because I feel like I said that like our mermaids are a color, but mermaids are supposed to be like half human, half fish.
Not in the actual drawings and depictions of mermaids are not how Disney depicted mermaids.
True.
They're all like the human aspect of them is that they have like hair and a face and arms. Not that they're like half fish and then the top part of them is like a woman.
But then do you feel like the way that Disney depicted it as being a half woman, that then that argument is kind of like the same as, okay, then they should be following how the comics look? Because that's how the comics depicted Ariel. Like she was white, red, like bright red hair.
For me, if I was Disney, that's how I would have casted it personally.
Yeah, me too. And like, it's nothing against Halle Bailey and her talent. Like I think she's really talented. I think her singing voice, like she has like
it sounded great.
Yeah, like she sounds like literally how Ariel sounded. But she could. I think I personally would have liked her to see her like do anything else because I saw the reaction of little kids like, oh, like she looks like me, but it's like wouldn't that confuse kids then? Because they would be like, well, why does she look like Ariel from the cartoon? You know, like I feel like it might actually confuse them instead of them actually seeing characters that were made to be them instead of replacements.
They just need to stop reprising these movies. Like stop making.
Just make new stuff, right?
Yeah, like the Aladdin live action. Like they need to just stop doing it. Like Disney acts sometimes like they don't have some of the most talented people in the world working for the company. Like they can't come up with something new.
Yeah.
Like they come up with something new, but then they keep reprising these old things. Like they made great things like Soul and
Soul. I never watched it, but
and Moana. Like they can still pull all of these different movies that are super hits. So I don't get why they do stuff like this, like make a live action Aladdin. Nobody asked for that, and these kids have no idea what that is anyway. So these kids don't know what Aladdin is. Aladdin came out in 90 something. Like I might not.
You don't think they still watch it? Oh yeah, no, I see your point.
The only reason why they would watch it is because their parents. It's us, our generation trying to relive our childhood and showing them. But that's probably such.
Yeah, because I was thinking Ariel might not even be not known for a lot of kids.
You don't see kids dressing up like Aladdin now. Like first of all, that would be a little weird.
Well, yeah,
because
you're not
even in the beginning,
you're not the same ethnicity.
Yeah, like even in the beginning of the movie, they're like, there's some racial things that we put in here. Like you don't see people dressing up like.
I haven't even seen kids dress up as Ariel in a long time. Like I think like Maya's generation, like 2002 babies, maybe 2003 were like the last generation I've really seen like cared.
It's just their target audience because the reason why these companies do this stuff is because they go on social media and they see all of us that are in our mid-20s or
still talking about
20s,
it, right?
Like oh my god, like.
And that's the thing, our generation, like people who are our age group, like 25, 26, we like, I think are like one of the biggest people that were on social media because we grew up on, like not grew up on it, but we grew up with it growing, Like we were all at the forefront of that MySpace, Facebook era. Like we literally grew with social media. And I think that's why we have such a huge impact on trends and what people are talking about. But now Gen Z is really coming up, right? And a lot of Gen Z, though, is still mixed in with us because we're the end of millennials. Like sometimes some websites don't even consider us millennials. They consider us Gen Z, like the older people of Gen Z. So we're like right in the line of it. So even a lot of Gen Z that run social media now that are in like their young 20s are still kind of like with us. Like they're only 4 years younger than us, 3 years. Like a lot of these, I will call them like the TikTok kids who are like just turning 20 or 21. So they still grew up on the same movies that we watched. Because you see, like your brother probably watched the same movies that you watched growing up. He was 2, 3, 4 watched now while you were like 10. So that's the only difference. But
they should just stop. Like they're bringing iCarly back, bringing back That's So Raven. Like all these different things.
Like nobody cares. Like, did iCarly even do good?
Probably not. Because it's not even on TV. It's only on streaming.
And then that's the thing too. When they bring these people back, not everybody can even come back. Like Sam didn't come back, and we all know why now.
Or even Martin, like they just need to stop like bringing back these old things because it just doesn't do well.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a fantasy. Like companies need to understand that when they see people tweeting out, oh, they should bring
should
back
bring
this,
back, yeah.
this, and blah blah blah. It's like it's a fantasy. Like we don't really believe that because everybody that said, "Oh, they should bring it back," has probably not watched it.
Because realistically, we say those things, but we know now that at our age, we don't even have time to watch those things. Like, we say those things because it's like healing our inner child.
Yeah, it's just people going through their "I'm getting older" phase, and they're just crying out for help on social media. But nobody really wants to watch.
Because they feel
that.
like when they feel like if those shows got rebooted, that it will bring like those old feels back. Like you'll feel like you're back when you're 10 again in your mom's house. Like no.
But to finalize my thought, they should have casted it differently, in my opinion, just to make it look more like how it was depicted. Even though she is a mythical creature.
Because I get that argument, but it's like that's still not how she was depicted.
Yeah. So, I don't agree with people's backlash because it's all underlying racism coded in the I just wanted to be wanted to be how it looked in the movies because it did kind of like. No, I'm not even gonna say it. What I was gonna say is like, the people. Nobody has red hair like that, but like you're kind of. I could see how somebody can make the argument as like you're taking the way somebody looked and they could have been like, oh, I could dress up like Ariel. Yeah. For the place of and putting giving somebody else the opportunity to say, oh, I look like Ariel. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So then at least like if a kid dresses up and they're black, they feel like, oh, I look like Halle.
Right. But then you kind of took it away from other kids that were able to do the same thing. I got that. I've heard that argument, but I also kind of, don't really like it too much.
I think maybe if parents maybe explain to them like, oh, like Ariel could be anybody. Like this is how she looks in this movie, and this is how she looks in this movie. And we all could be Ariel.
But also, who is watching the little? Like I can't possibly in my mind think that kids in this generation are watching older.
What are they watching?
Disney.
Besides like Cocomelon and like
all the new
ones.
Yeah, all the new Pixar movies.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Turning Red, that was one that came out recently. Like the Baymax movies. I really think that they only watch.
But then again, when we were watching these movies weren't new.
Yeah, they were.
No, but like Cinderella was like in the 50s. We were watching that in the 90s.
Yeah, but that is different.
But Ariel wasn't. When did Ariel come
out? 90s at some point.
Oh. Yeah, and so did.
But I mean, this is just a new generation of kids. That's why. Like when.
So you think eventually they're gonna be removed from like the Cinderella, Snow White, like the traditional princess movies?
I think the only thing about those originals is that that's still pumped in Disney.
That's what I say. Like you go to Disney World, that's still
like the
pumped.
The Disney castle.
Because look, Mickey lasted over 100 years at this point, almost, right?
Right, but you see, the kids aren't watching the original Mickey cartoons; they're watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and all the different 3D remixes. Like, I don't really think kids like the drawn out.
Oh yeah, no.
Animation. So that's what I mean.
Do you think they'll do that with other princesses though, like Ariel, Cinderella, Snow White? Like, do you think they'll remix them to keep them alive? They might.
I don't know. I just you're more likely to see somebody dressed as Elsa than you are to see them dressed as Ariel.
Yeah,
you know
and
what
Elsa
I mean?
is a newer princess.
Or like Tiana, of course. Like all the newer stuff, I just feel like the kids are going for, and like I just don't see the point of them bringing this back.
But do you feel like they'll like eventually? I mean, I don't think they'll ever run out of ideas. But how many princesses can there be?
As many as they want to make. They keep printing them out.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have no choice.
Look, where'd they pull Elsa from? It just came out of nowhere.
And now that was like one of their biggest movies, right?
And my thing is, with them making live action, who is that catered towards? When the kids love the cartoon aspect of it, who is the live action catered towards? It has to be for adults.
That's what I'm thinking. Because do you think kids really care to see these people as human?
No.
I think they might creep them out. They might be scared.
Yeah,
right?
like wow, like I don't think the kids are sitting there like, man, I would love to see a live action version of this one. So it's just weird. The whole thing is weird.
It is.
So I disagree with all of it, and they, as talented as she is, and as much as she probably deserves that role, I just think it's all around just weird.
Yeah, I think it's just like I don't know how to describe it. Like it's weird at all angles, like you said. Yeah. It's weird from the people who are criticizing it heavy. It's weird from the people who are kind of pushing it.
And I hope she does amazing.
Yeah. I still think she'll be fine. I don't know how she is on a personal level, but it seems like obviously she seems level-headed. Like, you have Beyonce as your mentor. Like, I'm sure you're all right. Mentally.
Remember what I was saying yesterday, too? Like,
what? There's
something so peaceful. Like, could you imagine, right? Like, Naomi, they were critiquing Naomi.
Campbell?
Osaka, sorry. Oh. When she was losing and saying she was gonna take a mental health break and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know how like I mean, she's different. I think she's more sensitive, and she actually, I don't want to say actually cares, but the way she processes her emotions, she's very outward with her emotions,
Yeah.
and I think she's more vulnerable to negativity and positivity.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So people were getting at her for like saying she's taking a mental health break and all this other stuff. She just like sold a house a few months ago and like flipped it. She bought it for like probably like $1 million or $2 million and sold it for like $4 million. I'm like, do you know how?
I didn't know that she was into like the real estate stuff. But
Oh, of course, they all are.
Yeah, if you were smart, you would be.
They all are. But she was living there. But you know, you might as well get more money, and she got it right. Do you know how peaceful it probably is? Maybe not for her, but just in terms of like a situation on paper, to have made $2 million profit off of a house. Probably bought another multi-million-dollar house. Or one of the top level tennis players in the world. And that's your job.
And she's in a relationship, so you know if you want to say that relationships make you more well-rounded as a person.
And that's your job.
I think so. Yeah.
And you think that some dweeb that has to get up at 6 a.m, deal with their crying kids, driving them to the bus stop, make sure they get on the bus, and then I mean this is what a parent should do. It doesn't make you a dweeb, but the comments make you a dweeb.
Yeah, and like it's probably a job that's not even like a cool. Like it's probably not even like I don't think any job was. Well, I guess jobs could be cool, but you could have enjoyable jobs.
You could.
But it's probably nothing enjoyable. It's probably literally like a call center.
If you're tweeting about
a truck driver,
a young girl and her response to criticism, you're probably a dweeb.
Yeah.
Like, and you're weird.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I'm just setting the frame. Like, imagine you being the person criticizing that person that just is making millions of dollars off of hitting a tennis ball. Like,
it's always weird when people are overcritical and stuff. Like I saw somebody say too, they're like, because you know Connie just opened for Balenciaga show. They're like, oh, this probably made Connie feel like he is who he thinks he is. They're like his money affords him that. I'm like, his money proves that he is who he thinks he is. Like, who are you? Like, he's a billionaire for a reason. Like, you will never touch $1 billion. Most of us in his life will never touch that. And you're saying he is who he thinks he is? No, he is who he is who he thinks he is. Like, he's not pretending that like he doesn't feel like he is who he thinks he is. He's walking for Balenciaga when he has his own show tomorrow. And that's probably going to have as many people tune in. Like, people are just weird. Like, oh, this probably made him feel like he is who he thinks he is. No, his bank account, I think, proves that he is who he thinks he is. Like, people are just weird. I'm like, who are you? Like, who even are you to say this?
Yeah.
People are just weird. Like,